So my name is Brian.
My name's Linton.
What is your involvement in men's rights movement or men's issues advocacy?
Well, since about 1996, I've been campaigning on UK men and fathers' rights. Started off on the fathers' rights, but that broadened out more generally into men's rights. And so it's initially fathers' issues which caused me to become active, but since then I've broadened out into men's rights.
Yeah, for me it started around 2000, just after the divorce period, when I realised what a complete lunacy we live in. And I was first associated with a group called the Equal Parenting Party that was managed by a guy called Tony Coe. There we used to go around to the judges' houses and let the neighbours know what was going on. I don't know if you did any of those.
I did, yeah.
That became the Equal Parenting Council, I think, after that. And then I got wind of Fathers for Justice, and that's where we met each other, wasn't it, in around 2000.
I think the campaigning outside the family court judges' houses was really key, because in our family courts, they're really violating men. They're going into men's homes, they're removing men from their homes. And it was really key for me. And it was Mark Harris who, for me, started it. And so we started doing this in general, where we would just hold a peaceful protest outside judges' houses. And it was clear very quickly that they hated this. They absolutely hated it.
And Mark Harris was put to jail, wasn't he? Because he waved at his child from across the road.
Yeah, it's worth saying that Mark Harris, exactly as Linton said, he was waving at his children as they were being driven past in the mother's car. And they had a photographer following him, filming him to get evidence for the court, and they jailed him for 18 months for this outrageous act of waving at his own children as they were.
And these judges, they're public figures, they work for government, so everything they do should be in the public domain. Of course, the courts are all secret family courts, but outside of that, we can stand on the streets and say what we like. We're better than to tell their neighbours exactly what they've done.
What are you proudest of in terms of your activism?
For me, it was the Royal Holloway College. Here was a college which had a really extreme feminist, Betsy Stenko. I think she was from the US, and she was pushing complete domestic violence lies. She was just exaggerating the statistics tenfold, and she was very influential with the Blair government. And so I accepted the Royal Holloway's invitation for an open day where parents and children go along to have a look at what the college is like. I accepted their open day to come along, and we went en masse and leafleted. This was just hugely enjoyable, and the college was so embarrassed about this. They tried to kick us out, but of course their college is completely porous, and the harder they were trying to kick us out, the more sort of we turned up the volume. So we had loudspeakers there just right at the entrance as the parents were coming in the door, and the college was just hugely embarrassed about this, and that was just an extremely good day of action.
Were you involved with the justices thing?
Justice for Fathers, yeah.
No. What I'm really not proud of, but had a big impression and taught me a lot, I don't want to talk about. I can talk about that later. But I do remember, were you involved in the Legal Services Commission? Fathers, it was a Father Christmas Day, and we used to meet, didn't we, at Hyde Park, jump on a couple of buses with hundreds of Father Christmases, and decided to raise issue with the Legal Services Commission, which that had a foyer with a revolving door, and I was one of the first in, and there was just Father Christmas after Father Christmas after Father Christmas being pumped in by this revolving door. And it's interesting to see that under those circumstances, of course, the security guys just did not know what to do. And that's a lesson. That taught me a lesson. Now, we were not aggressive. We're not being aggressive. It's just to draw attention. But it makes you realise how on the brink, potentially, we are as a country, perhaps, of being overrun, and how easy it would be to happen. But there we were, just to give our presence, and that was so much fun. We got a lot of fun out of this, didn't we? And now take that forward.
Yeah. There was also the Men in Black Day. Do you remember that?
Was Men in Black Day.
We went into an operating family court, and we were all dressed in black, and it was kept very secret, so they were completely surprised. But what they were even more surprised at was once we were in the court, literally thousands of dads turned up outside, so the police were not even able to sort of, rough us up or anything like that. In fact, they treated us very nicely.
And we always do it with most noblest intention, and I always hang on to that, and I'll defend that always.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for young activists in the men's issues and men's rights advocacy field?
Right now, I'm thinking that probably the best thing to do is to refuse to do jury service. And the way to do it would be to say that if I'm ever called as a jury, you couldn't possibly use me as a jury, because I'm so biased now after what I'd seen that every man I would automatically find not guilty, and every woman I would find guilty. So you wouldn't actually be able to use me as a juror. It's just, I wouldn't be fair. Basically, I've got the same biases as you, the courts, have, but just the other way around. So whereas you, the courts, are completely biased against men, I as a jury would be, pro-men, and so you wouldn't be able to use me as a jury. And I think if men did this en masse, that could be a very effective campaign tool.
There's always this, if men or people could do this en masse, and that's always the key. So surely I think that's the probably the most peaceful way of having it's not a revolution, is by making change, is by non-compliance. If you can not comply in the simplest ways, and once you get used to it, just extend that non-compliance out, that is very effective. The truth is, we're living in a totally, absolutely corrupted state and system, and we've seen evidence of that today. And the best way is to ease that out while easing other stuff in, and it's pointless asking those at the top to change, please, because they're not going to do that. But non-compliance from the bottom sends strong signals up. About coordinating people, if people know and can recognise the end point when you need to act or you're going down, it's natural. If they know what to do, they'll do it.
What period of time were you doing these?
Well, I've been active since 1996, not continuously, but since 1996 I've been active.
Yeah, for me, 2000 to 2003 or 4, something like that, and then I had to get on straightening my life out, and then I got back into it about 5 years ago with the what is now London group, speaking on Speaker's Corner. In fact, it was when I got back into it, I reunited with Brian, who I hadn't seen for 10 years, and just sheer chance we met somewhere, didn't we? And now we're friendly as families. And it was Brian that actually demonstrated to me in year 2000 how to speak on Speaker's Corner, and for all those times I wanted to, I couldn't imagine that 10 years later we'd be doing that and loving every minute of it.
Yeah. Neither of us, it has to be said, is probably particularly talented at speaking at Speaker's Corner, but just having the courage to get up there and speak out, I think is wonderful. Everyone should have a go.
Absolutely disagree with Ryan. Everyone has a talent there, and the crowd comes from all over the world. They're all different opinions, different aspects of personalities. Doesn't matter who speaks, as long as they're genuine and honest in what they're saying, there'll be someone that's got something particularly to pick up from that particular character that has that talent.
So is there anything else you'd like to add to what you said today? Any other closing thoughts?
Well, I think really the message for young men is to really think about marriage, whether that's the right road to go down, and I'd possibly urge young men to really have a think, long think about whether that's a good idea now. It seems to me it's just feeding the family courts, the corrupt family courts, with money, and so I think that's one of the messages.
Certainly on that point, I'd say recognise what marriage is and what isn't. And marriage to me is when two people come together and they become interdependent, and usually it's love-based, which is a special emotion that takes place, and to thoroughly enjoy that. Now, that doesn't mean you have to sign a bit of paper that associates your relationship with the state such that you have to ask for it to be broken down or whatever. I know they interfere with personal affairs apart from that. But from the point of view of marriage, I would never at the moment advise, I've got 2 boys, advise them not to fear becoming married to someone, but certainly involving the country in a contract. Caveat.
Yeah.
I'd say no, don't do that, because I know, and as we know from just what's been talked about here, it can be a kiss of death with a high percentage for not just the family, the male, but the children, and I don't think it does the women much good anyway.
The other thing I think it's worth saying is that some of this is not an anti-women thing,
No.
men's rights. Some of the greatest supporters of men are women, and some of the worst kind of feminists are men, family court judges. They're male, so this is not a gender issue.
No, and certainly on the Speaker's Corner, there's lots of students there, and we see the usual feminist males and females, and we bring this to the attention of the audience, who are shocked by this. And of course, they stand there and demonstrate their feministic behaviours in front of us for everyone to see. So it's a powerful tool.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You were very good.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.